Pam, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And
It's
we'll
a pleasure.
just kind of zip around town and hit the hot spots, and you know, I think it always goes best if we just start with you kind of giving a short version of you know, who you are in your life, and then we'll get into kind of some of the fun stuff.
Okay. Well, I grew up in nearby Girard. My family farms just south of that community, and so I grew up going to school over there, and then came over to Pitt State when I went to college. And at that point in time, I moved over to Pittsburg and became a resident, and I've never left. I've been a lifelong Crawford Countian. Yeah, so I am married. My husband, Ben Henderson, is the deputy police chief here in Pittsburgh, and so that's the job he had when we met. In fact, we met. I was during college. I had to get a second job because I had to pay for my own college education, and so I had a part-time job at Pitt State, and I was looking for a second job one summer, and there was a job opening at the chamber. So I went and interviewed with Linda Wilkinson and Joe Hart for that job, and it was being the intern coordinator for Little Balkans Festival Association. I was literally preparing for Little Balkans Days, and one of the police officers that I was working with at the department, he came in and he had a trainee with him, and it happened to be Ben Henderson, and so that's how we met. And so he left, and I had said something about, hey, who was that guy? And so we kind of talked back and forth, and come Little Balkans Days Festival, Ben actually asked me out here in Lincoln Park.
Wow.
So that's how we got together, and so that's our anniversary is Little Balkans Days, we say every year. And Little Balkans really was kind of an opportunity to get involved. And like I said, with Joe Hart and Kaylin Webb and people like that, they really made sure you knew everybody. And I think that was my good ticket too. I met a lot of city staff at that point in time, like your Parks and Rec employees and your on the ground employees. I met those guys and those girls, and we built great relationships, which I think it still are the people that I'm closest to today. Like those are the employees that we just have a special bond because we've worked together for over 25 years now.
And what do you think of this mini golf?
I'm very excited about the mini golf course. That is the golf that I can play, is mini golf. But that is something, you know, you go to Branson, you go to other places, and you see the big golf courses and stuff, and it would be fun to have an attraction like that. I think for younger kids, because, you know, back in my day, we used to really cruise the Burg. Like, we went up and down Broadway for hours on end on Friday and Saturday nights, and that was a great opportunity for my age group, I think, to network and get associated. And we had to actually socialize with each other.
Was it called Dragging the Gut?
Dragging the Gut, yeah, that's what we did.
It's pretty. It's coming back. I mean,
it is, but you know, if gas the price it is now, it was more like 99 cents a gallon at that point.
Cheaper back then.
And so I think mini golf will be a great opportunity for kids, especially kids that maybe are just a little too young to drive outside Pittsburgh, for this to be an opportunity for them to hang out and.
Well, that's going to be it.
And meet. I went to Girard, but I worked on the school bond.
How about that?
For Pittsburgh
finally
Community Schools.
Around.
Yes. So we
had to go through that twice to get that passed?
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
It looks nice. I mean, we were able to keep the historical features of the old facility and the old high school, but yet at the same point in time, it gave it life, and it's beautiful inside, and actually a space that is utilized now. When I was on the Pittsburgh City Commission back in 2007, 2011.
So when did you get on in 2007?
2007.
Did you run unopposed, or how?
I did not. There was actually so many people running that we had to do a primary election.
Wow.
And so.
Did you get a 4-year term?
I got a 4-year term. I was the second highest vote getter, and so Bill Rushton was the highest vote getter, and so he was president of the board that next year. And my first year, I was vice chair of the board, and became mayor my second year on the board. So
you were mayor.
I was mayor.
I think you may have been the youngest mayor.
I was the youngest mayor in history. Yeah, I was mayor at the age, 25? I think 29, and I turned 30 like a month later.
Wow.
But I became mayor, and I was pregnant with my second child, so she was luckily breached, so I knew she could not get out. And so Tuesday night, I had talked to. They weren't going to certify the election results over at Crawford County at the courthouse, and so I talked to a friend over there and said, "Hey, look at me, I'm pregnant. Like, we've got to certify the results so that we can do this because I have to have a baby." And so they did. They got the certification done for the results. We got sworn in on that Tuesday night, and Friday morning I was having a C-section and having a baby.
And you served for how long?
I served for just one term. I served for 4 years, and then I got my current job with U.S. Senator Jerry Moran at that time. And so
how did you get that job?
So I had always wanted to be. That was my degree was in political science, and I always wanted to take and work for somebody behind the scenes. I didn't want to be that person out in front. I wanted to be the person getting the work done behind. And I knew a lot of our higher up state officials and Congress people at that point in time. But I knew them as friends, and I didn't really want to work for somebody that I knew that well. And Senator Moran was a congressman out in western Kansas, and so I met his wife and really liked her and liked him, and it just was a great opportunity that he was becoming a senator at that point in time, and so I was able to get on with him, and I've served with him for this is my 14th year, I think.
So you've been with him ever since he's been a senator?
Since he became a senator, yep.
Wow. Well, we're crossing Quincy.
Been a long
just think about the $7 million
you just
spent on Quincy.
So I think we started that project 3 times, probably in my time. So thank you for finally getting it done. It's been a finalized kind of thing.
I want to take it clear out to Free King. I want to turn it Free King and head towards Frontenac and get that whole highway safe. The high school is right out there. I think it needs to be safer. But it's an expensive undertaking, and we're doing it in pieces, and it's good.
And I think that's the thing most people don't realize. I mean, it's like remodeling your home or anything else. Like city business it takes little by little, right? Like you can't do it all at once. It's a process, and it's a plan that's coordinated to make sure that you get your money's worth of every project that you do. Campus of Pittsburg State University. So this is where I went, got my college degree, and then I also worked as a student employee. I worked in the mission office, which actually the mission office when I started was in Russ Hall, and then they moved us to they moved us to Whitesett Hall on the other side of campus because they were remodeling Horace Mann, which was an old elementary school, which they took and turned into, at that point in time, it was going to be a one-stop welcoming center. And so my office was in the middle of the building on the other side. And then I flipped jobs a lot when I was young. I'd worked at the university for 2 or 3 years, and I'd go work at the chamber for 2 or 3 years. And then I'd come back to the university for 2 or 3 years, and back and forth to the chamber and the university. I did about 3 times with each. But my second time back here, I came back for Pam Ehlers, was the director of career services, and so my office was up there in the corner, and I was here for maybe 6 months, I think, and PSU admissions came upstairs and said, hey, we got a full-time opening downstairs, and why don't you come back to work for us? And so I went back down there, and like I said, I worked at the mission office 3 different times.
Oh, wow.
And at the chamber in between each one of those times, so back and forth, and made the full circuit. But
well, why didn't you run for a second term as mayor?
So I only served the 1 term because I got my job with the senator that January I served from 2007 to 2011. So I got my job with the senator at the beginning of January 2011. I started with him when he started his term, and that was part of the understanding was that there's a conflict of interest, right, at all levels of government. And so if you're serving, whether it be a school board or even a city position, it's a perceived, if nothing else, conflict of interest kind of thing. And so I had to make a decision when I took that job. He let me serve, finished my term up through April, and then I had to say goodbye to that realm, which we had some great people coming on. Michael Gray's a good friend of mine, and he was coming on the board at that point in time, and it was a good opportunity to let some other people. It wasn't something I had intended to want to do for a long period of time, but I sure enjoyed the opportunity.
So we're heading up here to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So this is really where you got your start. Anything? Who were you working with back then?
So
who hired you?
No, Kayla Joy. You remember Kayla?
Oh,
Mike
yeah.
Joy.
Yeah, I do.
Kayla was the president of the
Mike
chamber.
Worked for the
hospital. Yep. And Kayla was at the chamber as the director, and so she hired me as I was actually the front office girl. And really, that was probably my favorite job, because talking about the front door to a community, and you talk to everybody and anybody, right? Like it was a great opportunity to meet people that are coming off the street that were visiting our town or wanted to take and put a business here. Really enjoyed that job, but the opportunity came available. Actually, I guess I left. I went back to Pitt State. See, I can't remember where I've been. So it wasn't Kayla hired me at one time at the chamber, but the second time when I was hired as the Convention Visitors Bureau director, Anissa Lomshek hired me for that job, and so she was the president at that point in time. And so I came back and served there for a little while, and then I left again to go to the chamber. And then when I came back the last time, trying to remember who hired me, because Marty Beasley was interim chamber director at that point in time for a little bit, but then Linda Wilkinson came back as the chamber director in an interim position as well. And I know me and Linda worked together during my last stint there, but I don't remember who hired me. I had to be one of those ladies.
Somebody, I'm sure they'd all take credit for doing it. More importantly, maybe, where do you see Pittsburgh going? What do you think's going? How do you like what's going on right now? What do we need to work on, and where should we focus on the future?
I think Pittsburgh has made a lot of strides in the last decade or so, little by little, right? Like we know how to do managed growth well. We've made progress little by little, and I think we're really at that point where we know what we can do. We've seen ourselves complete some awesome major projects, multi-million-dollar projects all the time, and I think we're looking for that what's the next thing we're going to do kind of thing. So I think you see that, like we talked about a sports complex or a convention center, I think we're going to continue to grow a community that is definitely going to be on the map, whereas a lot of state associations and people don't necessarily go beyond Topeka, or they think of Wichita and Kansas City. I think you're going to see Pittsburgh become a player in getting, you've seen it with our business growth, but I think you're going to see it with just tourism and different developments in different arenas of people wanting to come and play a role in being here, even if it's just for a few days here and there, every couple of years. I think you'll see Pittsburgh begin to take heed of some other opportunities. Cool. So the Pittsburgh High School launch students are taking and bought the land right there across from the Miners Memorial, and they're taking and building the Spot, which is an outside venue that will be a nice addition. Plus, just right here around the City Hall complex and the PD or the police department and the library, it's just kind of a nice to, I think that's what it's going to take, is block by block, just kind of working to revitalize the area. Well, clean up some dilapidated properties, because just like all of us in our houses, things get worn out, right?
Were you here when they did the Miners Park?
Kaylin Webb was inspirational in that land, was part of the railroads, and it really was kind of vacant and not much being done with it. And she kind of spearheaded an effort to raise money and did the Pritchett Pavilion and that whole park area right there. And it's a nice venue for the area.
And it's right across from Waco, which obviously her family started.
Ties in.
And I think that's where that building coming down also just kind of helps that whole area.
And so a couple years ago, I was the recipient of the Spirit of Pittsburgh Award for the community. And that was a great honor, because like I said, I consider it to be a Lifetime Achievement Award, because the people who have gotten it are your Jeff Wilberts, your Joe Harts, your Kaylin Webbs,
10 years.
I mean, they're everybody, right? Richard Miller, all those kind of people that have
30, 40.
Dick Webb, right? Yeah, everybody that's put all their time and effort into this community that I consider as mentors and personal friends. And so that was a great opportunity. And Senator Moran was actually, Blake had got the senator to be here to surprise me. And so he was coming, and I was supposed to staff him, and everybody was trying to keep it a big secret, but my press team was asking, what was I going to wear? And, people were asking odd questions that were really not normal for them to care whether Pam's wearing a dress or a shirt or whatever she may be wearing. So they were asking some odd questions. So I started getting a little keyed up that, hey, something must be going on.
Appreciate your friendship. Like I said, we've been friends since the day we got here. You guys, your family just stepped up and made us feel welcome. But where Pittsburgh's going in the next 15, 20 years, what do you see? What can happen?
I think as long as we all keep working together and or we can move mountains. I think we figured out that we had a mindset for a long time that we were the redheaded stepchild. And Southeast Kansas just did get a whole lot, but I think you see that really changing, not only for our community, but for some of the other surrounding communities in this area. But it's also given us the opportunity to find out what we can accomplish, and I think we're on the cusp of what's to come.
Well, promise me you'll stay involved, whatever you do.
I will, as long as you stick around.
That's not usually my decision, but we're thrilled being here. But it's been a lot easier with you guys.
Yeah,
so.
I would encourage folks, though, like no matter what your age, you can get involved. There's lots of community boards. There's lots of volunteer opportunities. I serve on the volunteer board at Memorial Auditorium. There's lots of things that you can do in this community to be a part of things.
Well, thanks a bunch, Pam. We're pulling back in. It's been a good time.